Every day, you wake up to a world saturated with color, noise, and physical sensation. But the organ experiencing all of this exists in absolute silent darkness. Your brain is locked inside a thick cranial vault, completely blind and deaf. Its only tether to the outside world is a dense network of cranial nerves and the spinal cord. Through these pathways, the brain receives millions of signals a second. Whether from your retina or skin, they arrive exactly the same. Identical, homogeneous electrical spikes. There is no physical light. There are no sound waves, only raw electrical data. This means our lived subjective reality is completely decoupled from the physical nature of the signals the brain receives. The brain has to translate an electrical storm into an experience. This translation is the hard problem of consciousness. Identical electrical waveforms flow into the center, resulting in drastically different qualities. We can measure these inputs and physical outputs. But how the brain generates the subjective feeling of seeing blue in the middle remains unmapped. Some neuroscientists avoid this problem by focusing entirely on observable behavior. If something reacts to a stimulus, they argue, it perceives it. But consider a smoke detector. A smoke detector takes in chemical inputs and outputs a shrieking alarm. It reacts to its environment, but it lacks aboutness or intentionality. The smoke detector does not experience the smoke, it feels nothing. A dog smelling smoke undergoes an internal subjective experience, a quality absent in the mechanical alarm. Physical behavior is not a reliable proxy for consciousness. To find the source of our subjective experience, we must clinically isolate consciousness from the rest of the brain's functions. This isolation is achieved through clinical dissection. By studying patients with highly specific focal brain lesions, we can observe what happens when cognitive functions are peeled away one by one. In cases of severe brain damage, doctors must determine if an unresponsive patient still harbors an internal reality, as was the challenge with Terry Schiavo. To understand how behavior and experience can detach, look at patient MS. At age 21, a viral infection destroyed his primary color processing areas. Subjectively, his conscious experience of color was gone. He reported living in a strictly grayscale world. Researchers showed MS 4 discs, 3 identical shades, and 1 outlier, and asked him to identify the odd one out. Consciously, he couldn't do it. His verbal guesses were no better than random chance. But when forced to track the outlier disc with his eyes, his murder systems targeted the correct color at a rate well above chance. His brain possessed hidden, unconscious shortcuts to process data and drive a physical response. He acted on information he couldn't see. Accurate physical action does not guarantee conscious awareness. If we can peel away behavior, what about our sense of time? Much of our identity is tied to our personal narrative, our memory. In 1953, patient HM underwent surgery to cure severe epilepsy. Surgeons removed portions of his temporal lobes, including the hippocampus. The operation stopped the seizures, but the loss of the hippocampus eliminated his declarative memory. HM could no longer store new facts or life events. He could not project himself into the future or recall his recent past. Yet his procedural memory remained intact. He could be taught complex motor skills, like mirror drawing. Over several days, his hand grew proficient at the task, even though he never remembered a single training session. HM lived entirely on an island of the present, unmoored from a personal timeline, but he was fully conscious. He felt the pencil, heard the researchers, and experienced the room. Consciousness is not reliant on a narrative identity. It can operate as a real-time qualitative awareness, even when the past and future are erased. Having stripped away behavior and memory, it is tempting to look for a single anatomical seat where consciousness resides. This instinct dates back to phrenology, which tried to map complex personality traits, like caution, to specific lumps on the skull. Modern neo-phrenology is a similar tendency. We look at fMRI scans with bright hotspots and assume we have found the exact location of a complex mental state. Mapping the amygdala as a fear center is an oversimplification. Fear requires a distributed network to analyze threat, elevate heart rate, and generate the subjective feeling of dread. Subjective experience cannot be isolated to a single room or a specific chemical burst. It is the result of distributed, network-level activity across the brain. If consciousness is not behavior, memory, or a localized spot, what defines the state of being conscious? Clinical research reveals 5 core parameters. The first is qualitative wealth. The brain segregates incoming electrical data into distinct sensory modalities. Spikes from your nose feel exclusively like smell, never like sight. The second is aboutness. The brain generates an experience regarding the outside world, not the electrical spikes themselves. You experience the heat of a fire, not the firing of your thermal receptors. Third is situatedness. Subjective experience immerses you within a specific spatial and temporal context. You are always somewhere, right now. Fourth is unity. This image shows a painting on the left and a chaotic map of eye movements on the right. 2 retinas take in disjointed fragments of data, yet we don't experience separate images. The brain serves up one singular, unified scene. Finally, perspective. This unified simulation is anchored to a definitive first-person geometric origin point. You experience the world from the orientation of your own head and body. This brings us back to the dark dungeon of the skull. The brain's physical isolation is an interpretive center, not a prison. Consciousness is an integrated, brain-wide network state. It is a system designed to predict and construct a coherent model of the outside world. The self and the world you experience are a real-time simulation, generated by a blind organ as it resolves the electrical patterns of its environment.